Hey everyone, welcome to the Lightning Talks. I'm DJ Schleen, I'm from Sonatype. Used to be from a healthcare organization, joined Sonatype about a week, month, not even ago. And I'm a DevOps evangelist, DevOps advocate, and this is DevSecOps reference architecture that we're trying to show you today. So I'll talk to you a little bit about Tokyo first. And Tokyo is a big city. This isn't the architecture, by the way. It's a huge city. It has, its own subway system. We have, Central Tokyo rail and subway network down here in the corner. And this is the New York subway overlaid onto Tokyo. And as you can see, this is not going. Oh, there we go. Brighton Beach is underwater. So it's just going to show that with any reference architecture, it's only as good as what your business is and what your practices are. So what I'm about to show you that we designed is a set of practices that we've seen over the years, things that I've experienced at a Fortune 10 company, as well as discussions with a lot of industry peers. So without further ado, if this thing actually goes, we're going to talk about possibilities. So this is the start of the DevSecOps reference architecture that we're putting in public today. I'll give you a link after that you can take a look at it. It's a little bit massive, and it goes on to the next page. But what it's meant to do is show interactions and how supply chain.
Camera's on stage.
Oh, ha. Sorry, I like walking around. So yeah, the reference architecture is meant to be layered so it can show you different portions of DevSecOps pipeline. So things coming from a supply chain, which is in purple, manual tasks, business tasks, we got security tasks that are in red, and are all the way along. We also have example vendors that are in here. And the reason why we do show that is just to give an idea of what kind of technologies go into certain places along the pipeline. We also talk about data science down at the bottom, and it goes to the next page where we talk about blue-green deployments, as well as chaos engineering, chaos monkeys, and some different concepts such as signing along the way. So who's this architecture for? It's for your architects in the organization. It could be for the business just to glance at it, get an idea of where things are. It's a great idea for the security organization to see where they can put security controls and where ethical hacking fits in, where the stakeholders fit in, how things interact together. So I'm going to talk about the ways. One of the things that I found when doing reference architectures at Aetna CVS was that if you put a security control into an application pipeline and you're slow or it slows everything down, people just remove it. So we got to be cognizant about flow. So that's one of the things that we put into this architecture diagram is we inserted security controls in a place that makes sense. And we'll dig into that a little bit in the lightning talk. Feedback, so feedback loops is part of that 3 ways of DevOps. And with the feedback loops, we're getting information faster to the developer, faster to everyone. And we're making sure that we're giving feedback to stakeholders as well. And we're applying measurement in our pipeline. And in experimentation, this whole thing is based on experimentation and what we've done throughout the years. Order. As I mentioned, the order of operations for a pipeline is very important. So I zoomed in here, and we can see that it's a static analysis and security testing step that I have highlighted in red. That step alone in itself in a pipeline as your code starts flowing through is going to take up a lot of time. So I've split it out into one line if it's too big, and if it's a microservice, then we can just throw it into our existing pipeline. We can have pull request removals and our pull request reviews or that kind of thing. Signs. One of the things that's in this architecture is every single security step, and it could be extended to every step in the pipeline or every stage in the pipeline, gets signed before and after it enters the stage. And this gives irrefutable evidence to audit security governance. It says the code went through an open source software management vulnerability test. And it finished at this time, and it was completed by this system on this day. The next system will pick that up, check, and see if that signature is valid, and if the previous step had completed, and if it's an authorized and identifiable signature, and it'll let it go into the next stage. And if it's not, it'll fail because the code probably was circumventing some security controls. So it's a way to ensure that the flow is going through. You have the time checks, so you can see how long that stage duration is. And you can also time the stage lag, so how long it takes to get from a static analysis phase to an open source software management phase. Monkeys. The monkeys are back. At the end, there's chaos engineering concepts that are alluded to in here. And there's also moving target defense elements. So every time you see the monkey in this diagram, it just means that there's some sort of craziness and chaos, moving target defense happening. In the build stages, it defines binary scrambling technologies for containerization or for systems as they build, which scrambles your underlying file system. So it's binary compatible, yet it's completely different memory spaces. So if we're doing from a development perspective or an attacker perspective, every time you get into that box, you couldn't do an exploit because the memory addresses would change. So that's moving target defense. There's some companies in here that do that kind of product. This here is just a highlight of the end of the application or the end of the pipeline where the firewall will detect an intrusion, and you can trigger off of that and identify if it's malicious or an abnormal behavior. And you can start cycling your environment. So you can start bringing machines up and down. You can scale them out. You can trigger back into the pipeline. And there's different call-outs in here that show that it does trigger back into the pipeline and it rebuilds the application. So technically, you could have it self-patching if vulnerabilities are detected or adversary attacks are coming in. And then, of course, the SOC, right? Like taking that information from multiple systems, doing data analysis, data modeling on it, and pumping that information into the SOC for incident management. So is it a recipe to follow? Absolutely not. Is it a reference? Absolutely. It's not meant to copy paste. It's that subway analogy in Tokyo. You're not going to be able to overlay this into your organization, but looking at it, you can see different paths that you could take or different technologies or techniques that you can put into this, your DevSecOps or DevOps practices. Finally, there's various formats. We do have this available on a download. I'll give you my email address at the end of this lightning talk. If you send an email to it, you will get an auto reply that has links to a PNG and a PDF format of this drawing, as well as a draw.io file. So if you're using draw.io, you can get the free client. You can also go to draw.io, load this up, and you'll see everything layered so you can hide, show things, take a look at it, zoom in, see what the labels are, and that kind of thing. So it's an interactive diagram that you can take, copy, and make it your own, and just start designing your own architectures. The reason why reference architectures are important is because they tell us process, they tell us what the possibilities are, and with this, we give you the overview and the components that you can assemble your own. So it's always good to have your architecture defined before you start building your pipelines, or if you have an existing pipeline, do an as-is diagram, potentially based on some of this, and look at the deltas and see where you are. So draw.io, again, is one of the formats. Make it your own. And if you email dj@sonatype.com, that is the auto reply that will come out. So a lot of the components or the stages are detailed in epic fails and feedback loops. We have these at our Sonatype booth, so if you want to get a copy of them, go right ahead, and we're going to be signing them later today. So this is All Day DevOps, and we have a plethora of stories based on the online conference that happens every year, alldaydevops.com. And that's my lightning talk. So thank you so much.